Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we have the upgrades to the Wise Mothman Mutant Menace. So I am severely under budget with this one. We're only at 36.68, but that's because I didn't want to go, too far over budget because there's some huge upgrades we could add in here, like Vorinclex or something like that would be insane. But I also wanted the deck to not go too far away from its original kind of, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want it to, get rid of too many of the really good cards, but I also didn't want to put in stuff that was too expensive. So currently this comes in at, $37, which is really, really nice. And one interesting thing about this deck is that I didn't have to worry as much about the cuts because for some reason they have 40 lands in the original deck. That's right, 40 lands in the original deck, which I don't entirely agree with this. So let's go through what I've added in here. I've added a Dreamroot Cascade and a Shipwreck Marsh, both, some decent lands that I think can kind of suit in here. Some a little bit more expensive lands, but that's, just the kind of way the cookie crumbles there. I've added in a Feed the Swarm, removing some of the other removal that was in there. I think that Feed the Swarm just gives us more options. Being able to destroy a target creature and an enchantment, I think is nice. And, it's relatively cheap, so we can add it in there. We've got the Ripples of Potential. So this Proliferate, then we can choose any number of permanents we control with a counter on them to phase them out. So this is the way that we can protect our stuff. It's recently been, from LCC, so it's not too hard to find and stuff like that, but making it so that our permanents phase out is better than, exiling them and then bringing them back or something like that, because it means that they can keep their counters on them, which is really nice. All right, we've got Simic Ascendancy. I've added this in here as an alternate win con. So whenever one or more +1s are added onto a creature you control, put that many growth counters onto Simic Ascendancy. We've got a lot of +1/+1 counters in here. This is the way the basic deck works. And I've kind of leaned heavily into the +1/+1s and into also graveyard, bringing stuff back from the graveyard too. So Simic Ascendancy is going to allow us to be able to do that really, really well. We've got Thrumming Bird, flying, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. I think it's pretty simple as to why it's in here. Just, combat damage, proliferate. I believe there's something else in the base deck that already does something similar to that, but having in, more proliferate is going to be great. Unnatural Restoration. This is going to be able to bring back cards from our graveyard because of the way the rad counters work. We're going to potentially mill stuff that we don't want to mill. However, this gives us an option to bring it back there, and we've also got the Proliferate built into it. Evolution Sage. What kind of, +1/+1 deck would this be without an Evolution Sage? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go too into depth into it, but whenever we play a land, we proliferate. Easy. Zealot's Sanity Flayer. So this is whenever a player mills one or more creatures, you create a 1/1 black horror creature token. So we're going to be able to make a lot of these black horror creature tokens to kind of, have a broader board out there, which is nice. And we can also pay one and tap to make someone mill stuff. And because we've got other stuff that does stuff when it mills, we've got lots of really nice options there. Azuri, Stalker of the Spheres. When it enters the battlefield, I can pay 3, and if we do get to proliferate twice, and then whenever you proliferate, draw a card. Card draw plus the option of proliferating twice for paying 3 is really nice. We've got Herald of the Secret Stream. So this is a one that kind of, I think is pretty decent in any deck that's built around +1/+1s. It just makes it so they can't be blocked. So we've got a lot of stuff in here that's going to have +1/+1 counters on it. Wise Mothman's going to be chucking them around like there's no tomorrow. We're going to be then proliferating them up and then making it so that all of those can't be blocked. This is insane. It doesn't require him to be tapped to do that. It doesn't require him to be, on the battlefield for any longer than when he comes on the battlefield. So this can potentially be a finisher if you've got a bunch of stuff with +1/+1s on it. We've got Master Biomancer. This one is insane. This is crazy, crazy, crazy good. So this was actually printed back during like Gate Crash, Commander Masters, Double Masters, etc. It was reprinted recently in Double Masters in the Ravnica Clue as well. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to his power. So they're going to enter with 2 +1/+1s on it, but they also turn into a mutant in addition to its other types. Now that's important because we got a bunch of stuff in here that like does stuff for mutants and stuff. So like, where is it? Like Hancock is stuff with mutants. We've got Jason Bright is stuff with mutants. There's stuff in here that synergizes really well with anything that is a mutant and stuff. So having all of our stuff enter as a mutant is just going to be really, really nice. And given the fact that this is just, you know, literally just one of the upgrades, it's only $1.25 and stuff like that, making it so that they all come in as mutants is going to be great. We've got Sidisi Brood Tyrant. So I wanted a couple cards in here that also do stuff whenever our creatures go into the graveyard, whenever we mill them. So Sidisi is going to mill as well as when he enters the battlefield, or when he enters the battlefield or attack, we're going to mill 3. And then we also get to create some black zombies. So, you know, just kind of spread out those black zombies is nice. We've got Takathal. Anytime we proliferate, we get to proliferate twice, and then we can remove 3 counters, which is going to be really, really easy to do to make him indestructible. And then we've got Seedborn Muse. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap. We've got some stuff in here that reliant on kind of tapping in here. So the Master, for example, is reliant on tapping and it enables us to be able to do that really easily. We've got Ral Troubleshooter as well, make other people mill cards, and then we'll be able to untap that. You know, just lots of really nice stuff. This one here, +1/+1 onto a target creature that enters the battlefield this turn. That one's not super important. But either way, Seedborn Muse is going to be helpful for that, as well as enables to be able to have energy up all the time. Have mana up all the time, because we're going to untap all permanents, not just, you know, not just the creatures or anything like that, but the lands as well. And then finally, we've got Muldrathar, the Gravetide, classic, like self-mill, Sultai commander. Sultai, correct? During each of your turns, you can play a land and cast a permanent spell from your graveyard. So of each type. So we're going to have a lot of permanent spells that go into our graveyard potentially by accident. We're going to have a lot of creatures, you know, we're going to have lands go in there. This is going to enable us to be able to bring them back, which is just nice, you know, to make use of all this, us self-milling from having the ride counters and stuff, as well as the other stuff I added in here to self-mill. If you want to go further away from, you know, the base deck, there's other stuff like Kagar is a good example, Archdruid as well. There's a few different cards that you could potentially go in here. Now, as for the cuts, you might be a little bit worried because we cut a fair few lands in here, but that's because, as I said, it started with 40 lands. I think that's a bit too much, especially when we've got ways now to be able to bring those back from our graveyard. So we've got a forest, we've got temples, all cut, Temple of the False Gods cut as well, and then Terramorphic Expanse. We still do have Evolving Wilds, but I cut the Terramorphic Expanse. We've got Contagion Clasp, pay 4 to proliferate, put a -1/-1 on a target creature. We've got other proliferate stuff that I think is just better. Contaminated Drink. I just think we've got better draw now, and we don't need the rad counters from it because we've got other ways to do rad counters or proliferate. There's a couple cards in here that are to do investigate or sacrifice clues and stuff. This one here, and then also the what was it? The Tireless Tracker. Both of those are cut because we don't need, you know, I don't want to worry about investigate and clues when we can just get cards ourselves and then just sack stuff the other way. Putrefy, I added the Feed the Swarm instead because I thought that was better. We've got Strength Bobblehead. I hate the bobbleheads, especially when you only have one in this deck. I think there's just better options than a Strength Bobblehead that's like a shitty mana rock that's going to put 1/1/1 on something for cost of 3. Tireless Tracker, as I said before. Atomize. This one's potentially could have stayed instead of the Feed the Swarm. It might be better than Feed the Swarm, actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut the Feed the Swarm and add this back in actually instead. Because I think that purely it might be a better card. So Oh, where's the... We'll just add that under proliferate, and then we'll just remove the feed the swarm. I think that's okay because proliferate and removal, and the removal's like more universal. Harmonize, I've cut because we've added other ways to be able to draw cards. Forced evolution is nice, but the person is going to get the creature back. It's like a creature removal for 2 turns and then some card draw. We've got better card draw in my opinion. We've got, you know, other ways to be able to defeat stuff. So I'm not a huge fan of this one. And then Casualties of War, very, very expensive. You get to remove like, you know, 5 different things, but I think there's just better options than this when this is just going to cost us, you know, 6 to do the removals. I think that there's just better options than it personally. But that's it for today, guys. I'm going to put the link to this down in the description so you guys can check it out. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.